What's up, folks? Jimmy here, Ingrained to Train, I2T Book Club. Message of the day. This one will be from The Power of Now again. Great read. Again, this is my second time reading it. I haven't read it in a few years, and I'm glad I picked it back up. A lot of things that I need to be reminded of. So, you don't ever just say, like, oh yeah, I read a book. I always reread books 2 or 3 times, because every time I go back and reread a book, there's always something I overlooked, or it was a message that I read that I kind of understood, but then when I went over it again, it's like, oh yeah, it really hit home. So don't be afraid to reread certain books. But this one comes from chapter 3, page 39, and it goes, the ego's needs are endless. It feels vulnerable and threatened, and so lives in a state of fear and want. Once you know how the basic dysfunction operates, there is no need to explore all countless manifestations. No need to make it into a complex personal problem. The ego, of course, loves that. It is always seeking for something to attach itself to in order to uphold and strengthen its illusory sense of self, and it will readily attach itself to your problems. This is why for so many people a large part of their sense of self is intimately connected with their problems. Once this has happened, the last thing they want is to become free of them. That would mean loss of self. There can be a great deal of unconscious ego investment in pain and suffering. So once you recognize the root of unconsciousness as an identification with the mind, which of course includes the emotions, you step out of it. You become present. When you are present, you can allow the mind to be as it is without getting entangled in it. The mind in itself is not dysfunctional. It is a wonderful tool. Dysfunction sets in when you seek yourself in it and mistake it for who you are. It then becomes the egoic mind and takes over your whole life. Wow. Pretty much sums up what you see a lot of today. A lot of people living through the ego, attaching themselves to problems, attaching themselves to negativity, to the point whether they realize or not, it's become who they are. It's become their identity. Think about, you probably know somebody who always seems to be playing the victim. Something always goes wrong. Even when they're offered help, they don't take it. There's one of those type of people that they need to complain about something, but they call themselves being realistic. That's the egoic mind right there. Right? They've attached themselves to negativity. They let these things, these circumstances, their bad perspective on life become who they are. And the ego is so strong that it just, their belief systems become stronger and stronger with these negative things, and it has a stronghold on them. So for us to really thrive and utilize our minds to the best of our abilities and to really have a sort of peace about us, you have to learn how to drop the ego. All right. Some things that I see too much on social media is people who try so hard to prove that they're right and change somebody else's opinion. And your ego and their ego, none's gonna budge. Think about it. How many times you debated or argued with somebody or sent comment threads on social media, and somebody who was on the opposing side is like, oh wow, you know what? You were right. Probably not. This person, even though they may have been clearly wrong, will just come up with something crazy that makes no sense, but to them it does, because that's the ego saying, no, they're wrong, you got this, you got this. I'll think about a debate that I had years ago, a sports debate. I was talking with a guy, and I'm a diehard Chicago Bears fan, and this guy, he goes, oh, the Bears, man, they suck, they're garbage. He's just talking crazy. And at the time, the Bears were, 10-6 team, kind of end of the Lovie Smith era. But this dude was an Oakland Raiders fan. And I'm like, bro, the Oakland Raiders are the worst team in the NFL. What are you talking about? And this was his response. This is what I was talking about earlier. We're like, people in their ego will attach itself to their opinion and not let go, and they'll say anything, and to them they sound right. He goes, well, the Raiders are better than the Bears because we know we're garbage. Like, that was his response, and he felt confident in that. Everybody in the room was like, bro, like, what are you drinking on? Like, that doesn't even make sense. But to him, that makes sense. And that's kind of how the ego operates. You know, that's just, you know, a basic example. But on a more complex, you know, topic, the same thing applies. So you have to learn to drop that ego. You have to learn to listen to understand, not prove yourself right. Listen to understand, gain another perspective, see things for what it is, be present in the moment, take the emotions out, and then you can operate fully to your best ability. Once you're able to do that, your productivity, your execution takes a whole new level, and there's a peace about it. I know firsthand because I used to have a problem with the ego for many years. But once I learned how to drop that, put the ego aside, and really be present and really focus in on what's truly important, you know, even when I'm talking to somebody about, you know, a topic, regardless of maybe a society thing or sports or anything, you know, I listen to understand. Now, they may be completely wrong, but I listen to kind of see what their perspective is. Because if I know how other people think, I'm 2 steps ahead. Because they're not trying to understand me. They want to prove that they're right. Okay, well, I'm going to listen. I don't have to agree with you, but I'm going to listen. And then I'm just going to take your perspective, my perspective, and then I'm just going, you know, it's chess out here. I'm just going to get to the next level. You can stay where you're at and hold on to your beliefs. But I'm going to use whatever information, tidbits that I can to get to the next level. All right, put the ego aside. All right, so great message. If you didn't take anything from this last little point, when you listen, somebody tells you something, don't listen to reply. Do not listen to prove yourself right. Listen to gain an understanding of their side. You don't have to agree, but listen to try to understand. Take whatever perspective that you can and then use it to your advantage. And that'll propel you that far ahead. Alright, so again, I2T Book Club, you know, my goal is to at some point really engage in some dialogue. I would love to talk to people about these topics, kind of get some feedback on your thoughts or your stories and your opinions, and really, you know, kind of, you know, have some adult conversation.